All right, all right. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Israel, Yahweh Shemai Shabbat. I'm Brother Kazak with Sons of Zion, Houston.
Brother Kasadi with Sons of Zion, Houston. Shalom.
All praise to the Most High. Welcome to another episode of Faith by Works, where we highlight, we study, and we meditate on the commandment week in and week out, man. This week, right, we're looking at, all right, the law of usury, right? The law of usury. That's the title of today's lesson, right? And we're going to jump straight into it. So get your notepad, all right, pen, get your King James Version Bible. We're going to be tapping into the NLT version as well as the King James Version. So be ready for that. Right, Brother Casadia has an article and a video we're going to tap into as well. Right, and we're going to get the actual definition of usury, right? How it's a heathen custom, right? And how the Most High God sees it, okay? Get a thorough understanding and how the Most High God sees it, right? All right, so this is the book of Colossians, chapter 3, and verse 17. And it reads, "And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Yahweh Shah, giving thanks to Yahweh, the Father by him." Right? So we have to start with this precept, right? In everything that we do, right? The prophesying of our lips, right? It needs to be within the oracles of the Most High God. Everything that we do, it needs to be glorifying the Lord, right? Not for vainglory, right? Not for preeminence, not to make a name for ourselves. We do this to glorify the Most High God by way of His Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. So in the Paleo Hebrew, we say what? Call Halal Yahweh by Hashem wa Malak Yahweh Shah, right? And again, that's giving all honor to who the world vaguely calls God by way of his son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, right? So, like I said, this is another episode of Faith by Works, right? This is the book of James, chapter 2, and verse 14, and it reads, "What does it profit, my brethren, though a man say he hath faith and have not works? Can faith save him?" So, prophesying with your lips and saying, "Hey, look, I got faith, right? I believe in the Lord." Is this enough, right? Is this going to save us in that day of judgment? Is this going to withhold us from the wrath of the Most High God? La. Verse 17, it says, "Even so, faith, if it hath not works, is dead." Right? So if you're not proving it with works and with action, it's dead. It's obsolete. It's pointless. Reading on, it says, "Being alone. Ye, a man say, thou hast faith and I have works. Show me thy faith without my works, and I will show thee my faith by my works." So you prove your faith in the Most High God. You prove your belief, your faith in His Son, His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shah, right? You show fear in Him, right, by showing forth the action, right? Love is an action word. Fearing your mother, right, is respecting her, right? Doing what she says do. You understand? The directions, right? You show your respect, you love your mother by taking out the trash, by making your bed when you get up. Hey, it's the same thing with the Most High God, man. Hey, what do? You actually put forth the works. You actually put forth the actual action and loving the Lord, right? In deed and in truth, right? Brother Casadia, we just lost him, but he gonna tap back in a second. This is the book of First John, chapter 3, and verse 18, proving that love is an action word, right? And it says, "What? My little children, let us love in word, neither in tongue, but in deed and in truth," right? So prophesying with your lips is not enough, right? You have to put forth the action. You have to prove it. You understand? This is very, very mandatory, right? And week in and week out, we're going to study the different ways in doing so. So, like I said, right, the title of today's lesson is, okay, the law of usury, right? So let's get that commandment. We're going to get it in the law, three different places, right? Three different places in the Torah, right? We're going to get it in Leviticus. We're going to get it in Deuteronomy. We're also going to get it in the book of Exodus, right? So this is the book of Leviticus, chapter 25. And I'm going to start at verse 35. And it says, "And if thy brother be waxing poor," right? So if your brother falls on hard times, okay, and he's financially unstable, right? He's in an unfortunate position. It says, "And fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him." Right? So the Most High God is saying, right, in this commandment, hey, you need to help him. And it says, "Ye though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. Right? So open up your home. Okay. Help him out. Right? Help him out. Okay. Let me add Kasadi in real quick. All right, you back, King. You good?
Hey, Salakia, my internet is tripping, so bear with me, Israel. Salakia.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Con. I already told him. I already told the viewers. You ain't
Con,
missed too much. We just opening up with the commandment. I'm at Leviticus 25 and verse 35. I'm gonna start it over. And it
okay.
says, and if thy brother be waxing poor, all right, he fall on hard times and falling in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him, help him out, right? Ye though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. Open up your home, okay? Help him out, give him shelter. Take thou no usury of him or increase, but fear thy God, that thy brother may live with thee. So it says, fear the Lord. Understand that, hey, you could be in the same position as him. Understand that he's in a bad place. You understand? Love him as you would love your own self. So if you were in his place, you would need help with no strings attached, right? So do the same thing. Reading on, it says that thy brother may live with thee. It says, thou shalt not give him thy money upon usury, nor lend him thy victuals for increase, right? So the term usury, right? Victuals, right? For increase, right? We're going to get this in the NLT, right? We're going to go to another spot. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy 23 and verse 19 in the NLT for further understanding. It says, do not charge interest on the loans you make to a fellow Israelite, whether you loan money or food or anything else. In this particular case, in Leviticus, shelter, right? It says you may charge interest to foreigners. So it's okay to do it to the heathen, right? But it says, but you may not charge interest to Israelites, your brother, your sister, right? Those who are descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel, okay? It says, so that the Lord your God may bless you in everything you do and the land you are about to enter and occupy. You understand? So it says right there in Leviticus 25 and verse 35, it says, but fear thy God. Okay? This is how you fear thy God, so that the Lord your God may bless you in everything that you do. You understand? We're going to get it in one more spot, right? To clear it up. Exodus chapter 22 and verse 25 in the NLT. It says, if you lend money to any of my people who are in need, this is the Most High God saying, if you lend to any of my children, okay, Israel, right, do not charge interest as a money lender would. Now, who are the money lenders? When we look at the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, one of the curses, it says, we will be made the tail and not the head, right? Meaning, hey, financially, we're going to have to take loans out, okay, to dwell in this place because we are less fortunate than heathen. Heathen is in rulership. He is in charge of this world, right? So he's saying right here in this commandment, don't charge interest and use usury, which is the same thing, right? Like the heathen does when it in accordance to your brother. You understand? Right? So now that we got that, let's get the definition, right? I'm gonna share my screen. We're gonna go to the Merriam-Webster and we're gonna get the definition of usury. Okay. Share screen. Right. Okay. Am I good, brother? Think you're on mute.
Con,
Okay.
we good.
All right. So look, Israel, the definition of usury, right? It says the lending of money with an interest charge for its use, especially the lending of money at exorbitant interest rates, right? Exorbitant interest rates. So let's get this definition of exorbitant, right? We're good. Can you see it?
Yep, we good.
Exorbitant, right? Which is an adjective. It says not coming within the scope of the law. So it's illegal, right? But we know, you know, Esau gonna do what the hell he want to do, right? For his gain. We know that's part of his process. So that's crazy in itself, right? The second definition says exceeding the customary or appropriate limits in intensity, quality, amount, or size. So it's illegal or excessive. That's what it's defined as. So we can replace that, right? It says the lending of money with an interest charge for its use, especially the lending of money at excessive or illegal interest rates, right? The second definition, it says an unconscionable or exorbitant rate or amount of interest, okay? Interest in excess of a legal rate charged to a borrower for the use of money, right? So this is what it means. All right. We're gonna take that down, right? So this is the definition of usury, and this is how the Most High God sees it. You understand? He says not right to do this. How are we supposed to lend to our brother with the kindness of our heart, with no malicious intent, right? Like Christ would. Okay. And we're going to jump into that, but I'm going to let the brother get in there. Go ahead, King.
Con. So usury is a very important subject, simply because not only is it a practice that the heathens do, and we're gonna get into that in a little bit, but it's something that goes on in our communities far too often, right? Um, like the brother was bringing out, we all have, because we're an impoverished people, so we all have family members that are known to need to borrow from another family member, right? And we all have those family members that will literally strong arm the borrower, right, into not only paying them back what they lent, but paying them back with some extra. Where somebody asks to borrow your car, right? Well, yeah, you can borrow my car, but I need a full tank of gas, even though you just borrowed my car to go down the street, right? Um, you need to you need to borrow a couple of dollars. Okay, you can borrow a couple of dollars, but I need it back with a little bit of extra on top. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'll buy you something to eat, but you're gonna have to take me out. This, that, and the third. Like, just crazy ways that we add onto the burden of somebody that's already being burdened. You know what I'm saying? So it's a practice that even the heathens do to themselves, right? And that's something we're gonna get into. Usury. Usury was literally the downfall of the Roman Empire, right? Esau taking usury upon himself. I'm gonna get this real quick in the book of Matthew, chapter 3. Salakia. No, not Matthew chapter 3. Luke 20. Or Luke 20. Salakia. I lost my precept.
What you looking for, Ak?
Boom. No, I got it. It was Mark 3. I'm tripping.
Con.
Mark 3.
You trying to stay where you gonna start at? Yeah, we lost that brother. We lost that brother again. Bear with him, Israel. Right? Bear with him. He's gonna tap into Mark 3 whenever we get him back. Right? But the definition of usury basically, right, in summary, it's lending with intent to profit off your brother's place of poverty. Right? Your brother is in a bad spot, right? And you're trying to benefit off of it. It's the act of enslaving your brother financially, basically. Right there you go. Okay. All right. We tapped in. You
All
good,
right,
King?
Israel. If this happened one more again, I'm just gonna use my cell phone.
Hey, that's Satan, man. That's Satan, right?
Bro. Yeah, if it happened one more time, I'm just gonna use my cell phone.
It's
But
all go
yeah,
ahead.
like I say, I don't know what was the last thing you heard.
That you was going to Mark 3. You found out you found what you was looking for in Mark 3.
Yeah, okay. So Mark 3, right? Verse 23, it says, and he called them unto him and said unto them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand but hath an end, right? So at the end of the day, like I said earlier, right, the Roman Empire, it fell due to usury, right? I got a small video. It's not small at all, but I'm gonna make it small because we're not gonna watch this whole thing. Going into just that real quick. Boom. Brother, see that?
You good, King?
So the title of this video is How Usury Destroyed the Roman Empire, right? And mind you, like I said, it's a very, very long video, but we're gonna start at some important points, right? So, right, boom.
Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar, 100 to 44 BC, was born into an aristocratic family on July 12, 100 BC. He was tall and fair-headed and practiced briefly as a lawyer before becoming a brilliant military commander who conquered Gaul, France, in 59 to 52 BC. After his defeat of Pompey the Great in 48 BC at Pharsalus, Caesar became the undisputed leader of the Roman Republic. On his return to Italy in September 45 BC, Caesar found the streets and cities crowded with homeless people who had been forced off the land by usurers and landlords. 300,000 people had to be fed daily at the public granary. Usury was flourishing with disastrous consequences. The principal usurers, Jewish, were charging interest rates as high as 48% per annum. As Lucius Annaeus Seneca, 4 BC.
So real quick, I got to pause it right there. Any of which were Jewish, right? So we do understand that our people had been scattered even by that point, right, in Rome. And these are the things that they had to deal with as well. Like we had money changers of our people, but this particular practice was committed by the Jewish, right, Amalek.
To 65 AD, the philosopher would later remark in De Superstione, the customs of that most criminal nation have gained such strength that they have now been received in all lands. The conquered have given laws to the conqueror. At that time, there were two main.
So real quick, these same things happen today, right? We have Amalek. He has set up what's called a centralized banking system. And it's literally in every major superpower in this world, every major country in this world. They have a centralized bank, whether it be the Bank of England, whether it be, well, the Vatican has its own bank, centralized bank, whether it be the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve here in America is a private entity. It's not a part of the government. It's a central bank owned by other banks, basically. Right? It's a private entity. And when you talk about the United States debt, right, the deficit It's literally something that's being enforced by this Federal Reserve. The United States owes this money to the Federal Reserve, right? An amount that can never be paid back because of what? Interest rates, right? There's a website, and I'll share it here in a second because, I mean, it really don't take much talking to show it. But there's a website you can literally go to and watch the debt increase in real time, actually, right? But let's keep going.
In political parties, the optimates centered around the nobility, the Senate edged few, and the populares, who represented the citizens. Caesar immediately assumed leadership of the latter. Caesar fully understood the evils of usury and how to counter them. He recognized the profound truth that money is a national agent, created by law for a national purpose, and that no men should withhold it from circulation so as to cause panics in order that speculators could advance the rates of interest or could buy up property at ruinous prices after such panic.
That's important, right? I'm gonna get a precept on that real quick. It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, and verse 26. It says, "He that withholdeth corn, the people shall curse him, but blessing shall be upon the head of him that selleth it," right? These things, these goods, these services that people use to whether live off of or barter for things that they can live off of, right? It's a very evil thing to try to hoard it up for yourself, right? But this is what Esau does, right? Prove that real quick. Just lock your bill with me. Oh, it's the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 5, right? Well, I'm starting at verse 4 just so you can understand. Let's talk about Esau. It says, "Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Most High. If these came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? If grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes?" Esau don't want to leave no grapes. He want all your grapes and the stems that come with it, right? This is the practice of usury, right? But it's still, make sure my internet is still good.
You good? Keep cooking, King.
Come on.
Introduced the following social reforms. 1. Restoration of property was done at the much lower value held prior to the Civil War, 49 to 45 BC. 2. Several remissions of rents were granted. 3. Large numbers of poor citizens and discharged veterans were settled on allotments. 4. Free housing was provided to 80,000 impoverished families. 5. Soldiers' pay was increased from 123 to 225 denarii. 6. The corn dole was regulated. 7. Provincial communities were enfranchised. 8. Confusion in the calendar was removed by fixing it at 365 and 1/4 days from the 1st of January 44 BC.
So to put these things in layman's terms, right? We just had a so-called presidential election just passed, right? These are the type of things that Donald Trump was proposing that he was going to do in order for him to get elected, right? These are proposals that Caesar was making, right? Let's see why he was making these proposals. Because what?
His monetary reforms were as follows. 1. State debt levels were immediately reduced by 25%. 2. Control of the mint was transferred from the patricians, usurers, to government. 3. Cheap metal coins were issued as the means of exchange. 4. It was ruled that interest could not be levied at more than 1% per month. 5. It was decreed that interest could not be charged on interest, and that the total interest charge could never exceed the loaned, the in duplum rule. 6. Slavery was abolished as a means of settling debt. 7. Aristocrats were forced to employ their capital and not hoard it. These measures, the aristocrats and plutocrats' livelihood was now severely restricted. They therefore conspired to murder Caesar, the hero of the people. On that fateful morning of the 15th of March, 44 BC, only 4 years after assuming power, he arrived at the Senate building unarmed, having dismissed his military guard, who had previously been in constant attendance. Surrounded by 60 conspirators, he was stabbed to death and received 23 wounds. The Gold Age, 27.
Again, like it says, right? It says, and if a house be divided, is verse 25, chapter 3. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand but hath an end, right? This was the beginning of the end. Julius Caesar reigned at the height of the Roman Empire, right? But after this event, we start to see it fizzle out. They go into the gold age, silver age, where you start to see minted coins for the first time, right? And these are the times that Yahweh Shai was walking the earth in, right? Let's prove that. Book of Luke, chapter 20. Where is it? Verse 24, right? It's red letter. It says, show me a penny whose image and superstition hath it. They answered and said, Caesar's, right? We see it here on the screen. And he said unto them, render therefore unto Caesar the things which be Caesar's, and unto God the things which be God's, right? Like I said, this video was literally about how usury destroyed a nation, right? We had bankers, and honestly, that's the best points from the video. You got to keep watching that, right? We literally had bankers that were hoarding everything up to themselves, right, and becoming rich. So when you had the people that suffered and they were starving and they needed to be lent something, right? These bankers had the supply to lend to them, but they also wanted extra back. These are how the elite of the world made their fortunes, the so-called Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, right? These are major banking families that literally control the world through usury, right? And with that, I yield.
Great enlightenments, King. Great citing as well for fair use. You know what I'm saying? That was very, very good and very informative, right? It definitely reminded me of an account, right? That Luke 12. We can go ahead and get that, right? So it's basically you're prioritizing wealth over your own people. So what we got to realize, man, right? This is the book of Matthew, chapter 6 and verse 24. All right, let's see. Let's go to Christ. Let's see, because brother said Christ was walking the earth at this time, right? Let's see what Christ was teaching, right? Matthew chapter 6 and verse 24, it says, no man can serve two masters. Okay. Can't have two gods. It's only one. We learned that last week, right? So you can't serve two of them, right? It says what? For either he will hate the one and love the other, right? We see in the scriptures, it says, hey, he who loves the Most High God, right? Truthfully, he hates what the Most High God hates. That's scripture. It says what? For either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon, right? What is mammon? That's wealth, right? This is Christ saying, right? You can't love him and love your money as well, right? Because you understand that money has, what we just seen in the video, has our precious face on it. It's nothing but paper, right? It's going to rust and it's going to rot. It's going to burn, okay, at one point. So why exactly are you prioritizing it, right? Why exactly are you serving it? Why are you glorifying it, right? Why are you coveting it so much? You understand? Let's get another one, right? First Timothy chapter 6 and verse 9, right? Start at verse 9 in the NLT. It says, but people who long to be rich fall into temptation and are trapped by many foolish and harmful desires that plunge them into ruin and destruction, right? So you coveting this, you prioritizing this, you glorifying the riches and prosperity, you taking advantage of your brother, right? Mastering the aggression behind that crab in the bucket mentality, right? What it leads to is further temptation, right? Spirits hopping on you, right? Foolish and harmful desires, concupiscence. You understand? and many different evil desires, right? It says what? For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And some people, craving money, have wandered from the true faith and pierced themselves with many sorrows, man. And we see that today, right? We see many different, you know, famous people, right? Celebrities, after they have literally like given up their dignity and pride, right? Have, completely thrown away their moral principles, right? Have put their self to the side and glorified money and was willing to do so many different things for their financial gain. We see them. We see the condition that they're in. We see how sorrowful they are. We see how broken they are. You understand? And we see so many different celebrities like Kevin Gates, like Cardi B. After they've obtained all of these things, they say that you can't cover up the scars, right? You can, I mean, Salaki, you can cover up the stars and all this Louis Vuitton and all this designer wear, but they still gonna hurt. That's lyrics, right? That's words out of Kevin Gates' mouth. And then you have Cardi B in the interview, right, with Vlad. She's explaining how, yeah, it's good, that I'm good. I'm in a better financial place, but I miss the times where I could just go to Taco Bell and do what I want to do. I can move how I want to move, and I can say what I want to say, right? So I said all this to say what we see how sorrowful and how broken, right? The ending result is behind extreme covetousness after the green dollar, right? Going all in for this money. We see how broken it will be. And the scriptures right here in First Timothy, it says that, right? How when you wander from the faith, you become pierced with many sorrows, right? So let me get that account, right, that I was talking about. We're going to go to the book of Luke, right? Chapter 12 and verse 33, right? It says, actually, you know what? I think I want to start a little further up at verse 13, right? It's talking about this is the parable of the rich fool, okay? Right? It says, verse 13, Luke 12 and 13 says, someone in the crowd said to him, teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. And Yahushua replied, man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you? Then he said to them, watch out, be on guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions, right? And just FYI, okay, this is in the NIV, okay? Reading on, it says what? And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops, right? Talking about the hoarding, right? That Brother Kasadi was going into, right? It says what? Verse 18. Then he said, this is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry, right? So hoard it, keep it all to yourself, right? Be self-sufficient and be puffed up, right? Hoarding it instead of giving it like the Most High wants you to do, right? It says, but God said to him, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself, right? So you can die right now. The Most High God is saying you can die right now. Then what you going to do with all this abundance, right? Proving to him how meaningless it is, right? Verse 21, this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God. That's heavy. You understand? That's very, very heavy. Now we can skip down to verse 33. What is the actual ideal way, right? When you are fortunate, when you have things, how are we supposed to not be a fool in the Most High God's eyes? Well, this is the book of Luke, chapter 12, and verse 33. It says what? Sell that ye have and give alms. Provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that faileth not, where no thief approacheth, neither moth corrupteth. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So, a person by, where their treasure is, what they value. And if you value riches and prosperity, you're going to be selfish. You're going to think self all the time, right? And you're going to be prideful in accordance to these riches and prosperity, right? These materialistic things. You're going to hoard them, just like how the brother was bringing out and how he was giving that example. You understand? But the Most High God is teaching us in this parable, right, through Yahweh Shai, right? He's saying, hey, lay up your treasures in heaven, okay? Love your people. Give alms, right? When you have it, give it to somebody who doesn't have it. This is the way how to do it. Not using usury, right? Not being selfish, right? Being self-conscious, being self-absorbed, being puffed up, looking out for yourself, and looking in ways how you can gain. Because ultimately, man, what we're looking at is the science of being selfish. Simplistically saying, you understand? Like this is basically, right, the science of how the heathen is puffed up and how he continues to be where he is. Because we understand that money is Esau's God. And we're studying today the science on how he worships his God. And we're actually taking on his customs and his ways when we do it to our brothers and sisters. You understand? I yield there, King. I'm going to go ahead and pass it. Go ahead and get in there.
Con. Mighty points, like the brother was going into. This is ultimately the ways of Esau, right? And it's selfishness. And just like it happened in Rome, and that's literally the reason Rome fizzled out. Rome divided itself because of it, right? Understand that this Babylon, America, the so-called great, right? This is the modern revitalized Rome. And these things are happening still to this day, right? Let me get an article. Boom. Just let me know if they can see it real quick.
You green up. Go ahead.
Zoom in. Boom. It says the second Trump administration is headed for a colossal collision with the Federal Reserve. Remember, we brought that out earlier, right? The central bank. That's a private entity. It's not a part of the American government. That word federal was put in the title in order to deceive the people, right? It says, make no mistake, almost all of the media will be siding with Fed head Jerome Powell and his institution. They will parrot the central bank's party line that any attack is a highly dangerous assault on its independence and a formula for future inflation. So right there, it tells you this is an independent entity, privately owned, right? And the fact that, again, it's Amalek that owns this thing. Amalek also owns all of your media. So like they said right here, that the media is going to pretty much side with the Fed, right? Well, it makes sense, right? It says, don't buy this baloney. The looming big battle isn't about the Fed's independence. It's about the performance of our central bank. More particularly, it's about the models on which it bases its decisions. The core premise of these models is that prosperity causes inflation, right? So what they're saying is that in the Fed's eyes, right, they're blaming inflation on the fact that people are doing better, right? It says an economist named A.W. Phillips posited that there's trade-off between inflation and unemployment. Want less unemployment, you'll get higher inflation and vice versa, right? This so-called Phillips curve is wholly writ. It's crazy how they spell holy wrong. At the Fed and most other central banks. There are two big flaws with this. In addition to being bellied by what's happened in the actual world, the curve is wrong. So basically what it's saying is that makes no sense. So if you want less unemployment, you'll get higher inflation. So you telling me that prices go up just because more people have jobs? That makes zero sense, right? It says during recent years, for instance, unemployment in the US remained low, even as we experienced the worst rise in the cost of living in more than 40 years, right? This is a real world example that we all experience, right? It's been hard for a lot of our people specifically to find jobs, right? A lot of our people are being laid off, right? Even Esau is complaining about the lack of jobs, but prices are skyrocketing still, right? It says the Fed is flummoxed, but refuses to do a searing self-examination of its core belief. Admitting that its theology is wrong is hard for any institution. So the central bank clings to its bogus catechism, right? The first big flaw in the Federal Reserve's refusal to make the basic distinction between the two kinds of inflation, right? So this is their first flaw, right? There's a distinction between the two types of inflation. You have non-monetary inflation, which comes from major disruptions to production, like a natural disaster such as an earthquake, will send prices up, as will the dislocations of war. Not to mention the COVID lockdowns, right? So these are things that are out of people's control, that the effect of them drives prices up, and it makes sense, right? If it's harder to produce certain things, right, then that commodity that's being produced has to do what? Go up in price, right? If things are being restricted, that means the value of that thing goes up. These are things that make perfect sense, right? It says regulations and taxes can send costs up as well. There's nothing the Fed can do about non-monetary inflation. Jacking up interest rates won't cure bottlenecks at ports, right? But this is what the Fed will do anyway. They will jack up interest rates thinking that it's going to solve something, right? The other type of inflation is monetary inflation. And it comes from lowering the value of a currency, usually by creating too much of it. In other words, the cure for monetary inflation isn't slowing down or depressing the economy. It's stabilizing the value of a currency. After all, money measures value the way a clock measures time or a ruler measures length. Yet, neither the Fed nor other central banks ever mention currency stability. Why is that? Because they are literally trying to print a bunch of dollars in order to destabilize economies. This is what the central banks in every nation in this world are currently doing, right? This is that fiat currency and the instability of it that caused the fall of Rome. They are doing these things on purpose, right? They are printing, and releasing into circulation so much money that prices are skyrocketing simply because there's a lot of money in circulation. The supply of dollars it all goes back to supply and demand, right? When supply is high, demand is typically lowered because everybody already got something, right? But what's going on in these central banks is they're increasing the supply without circulating it. Again, the word that we've been using this whole time, right? And it's causing a major instability. And these central banks have the power to stop it, but they won't. They don't even mention it says here in this article, right? It says this brings us to the second big flaw, the absurd and destructive belief that a vibrant economy must be slowed down. Concomitant, meaning incidentally, with this insane notion is the idea that a central bank can actually and constructively guide economic activity by manipulating interest rates. If you think about it, this is similar to rent control. In this case, what's being rented isn't an apartment, but money. So they are literally increasing the money supply so that they can do what? Raise interest rates, making themselves richer, right? This is wickedness at level when it comes to usury, right? It says, and now we've arrived at why the next Trump administration is headed for a huge battle with the Fed. Powell and his colleagues will be warning that the Trump agenda will reignite inflation and that eventually the central bank may have to hike interest rates, right? So they're already jumping ahead of it. These interest rates, we're about to raise them again, right? Fiscal sustainability. Powell now proclaims. This is rather rich coming from a man who, desiring reappointment by President Biden, stayed silent while the White House and Congress went on a spending binge that sent deficits into the stratosphere, right? So you're basically saying that they pushed Biden to do a bunch of spending, aka borrowing more money, right? So they can put more interest on that money, right? This is a battle. This is Satan being against Satan. The same thing that happened to Rome, right? That caused the fall of Rome, right? Let me get a precept real quick. It's Book of Proverbs, chapter 28, and verse 8. It says, he that by usury and unjust gain increases his substance, he shall gather it for him that will pity the poor, right? Hold on, I'm going to stop sharing the screen, right? At the end of the day, these people are going to do what they are doing, right? They're gathering, they're increasing their substance by unjust gain, right? But who are they really doing it for at the end of the day? All of these things are by the will of the Most High God. These people are gathering, and I'm going to get the same precept in the NIV real quick. Let's see. Proverbs 28:8 in the NIV. It says, whoever increases wealth by taking interest or profit from the poor amasses it for another who will be kind to the poor. At the end of the day, Esau is going to destroy himself through these practices, right? And we know through the book of, real quick, I'm going to get it to prove it. 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 9. It says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, right? This poor that's going to inherit these riches, right? That's us at the end of the day, Israel, right? These unjust practices that they're committing, right? All they're doing is heaping up wrath unto themselves and building up our wealth at the end of the day. It's the book of Sirach. Actually, before I get there, I want to get this other precept. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 33, starting at verse 1. It says, woe to thee that spoilest, and thou was not spoiled. Esau wasn't spoiled, right? But they sit here and steal all day, every day. It says, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. How do they treat our people, right? These loans, the ones that are taking out the most loans and having to pay back interest, right? That's us. We have to take out the most loans. A lot of times we get denied for loans, but we still find ourselves in insurmountable amounts of debt, right? He says, when thou shalt cease to spoil, day is coming soon once this whole thing collapses, right? It says, thou shalt be spoiled. And when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee, right? At the end of the day, once this whole thing collapses and they have no more power, once their power, because they again, like the brother brought out, right? For the love of money is the root of all evil. And they serve their God, Satan, through hoarding of riches, right? Once that ceases, once that's no longer a viable option for Esau, then what? It's the book of Sirach, chapter 10 and verse 8. It says, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another, right? So at the end of the day, we have to understand that these things are all of the Most High, right? We should not be committing the things to each other, like the brother brought out in Deuteronomy. He was at 23:20, right? We should not be doing the things to each other that literally Esau has been doing to himself way back when, right? Because Esau is going to destroy himself because of it. And as a nation of people that will inherit the kingdom, we cannot be practicing the ways of Esau, right? We cannot be practicing the ways of all these other heathen nations that seek to gain and hoard from themselves off of the poverty of their own people, right? Get one more precept, King, and you can wrap it up. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 18 and verse 4, right? It says, "And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues." Again, we don't to if we don't want to get that same judgment that Esau is going to get, right? Because Esau is going to get that judgment. He's been judged before, he'll get judged again. This time it's going to be permanent, right? Then we have to come out of the ways, right? We have to come out of the ways of these heathens, right? And with that, I yield.
Phenomenal article. It was mind blowing. Great points. Good precepts, King. I want to grab an account in Nehemiah, right, where Nehemiah actually defends the oppressed. You understand? It's the book of Nehemiah in the NLT, right, chapter 5, and I'm gonna start at verse 6, where the oppressed was complaining in regards to interest rates, regarding usury, right? And it reads, "When I heard their complaints, I was very angry." Right? So Nehemiah is very angry. You understand? And it says, "What? After thinking it over, I spoke out against these nobles and officials. I told them, you are hurting your own relatives by charging interest when they borrow money. Then I called a public meeting to deal with the problem. At the meeting, I said to them, we are doing all we can do to redeem our Jewish relatives," right? But we understand, right? That ain't it, right? We understand that it's talking about the Israelites, right? Our Jewish relatives who have had to sell themselves to pagan foreigners, but you are selling them back into slavery again. How often must we redeem them? And they had nothing to say in their defense. They were confounded. And it says, "Then I pressed further. What you are doing is not right. Should you not walk in the fear of God in order to avoid being mocked by enemy nations? I myself, as well as my brothers and my workers, have been lending the people money and grain. But now let us stop this business of charging interest. You must restore," right? Reprimand, right? "Their fields, vineyards, olive groves, and homes to them this very day, and repay the interest you charge when you lent them money, grain, new wine, and olive oil." They replied, "We will give back everything and demand nothing more from the people. We will do as you say." Then I called the priests and made the nobles and officials swear to do what they had promised. Right. So this is an example, right? We're gonna go to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 18, and verse number 7 in the NLT. And it reads, "He is a merciful creditor, not keeping the items given as security by poor debtors. He does not rob the poor, but instead gives food to the hungry and provides clothes for the needy." Right? So on the flip side, you have an example in Nehemiah chapter 5, verse 9 through 12, right? On how usury is used, right? And how Nehemiah defends the oppressed. And Brother Kasadia brought out the ultimate result in this, on how it displeases the Most High God, and how Esau is the border of wickedness, and how it's going to end very, 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 very violently for him. It's going to be horrible, right? The terrible God is going to pull forth his hand, and he's going to destroy this place. Those that involve themselves in usury, the heathen, right? But right here on the flip side, let's see, right, how the Most High God feels, right, through the prophet Ezekiel in this account, on how he feels about those who lend with the goodness of their heart, right? I'm going to start it back over. Ezekiel 18 and verse 7, it says, "He is a merciful creditor," right, giving an example of a good one, "not keeping the items given as security by poor debtors. He does not rob the poor, but instead gives food to the hungry and provides clothes for the needy." He grants loans without interest, stays away from injustice, just like in Nehemiah chapter 5, right? Is honest and fair when judging others, and faithfully obeys my decrees and regulations. It says, anyone who does these things is just and will surely live, says the sovereign Lord, right? Got the flip. Just like how you have Deuteronomy 28 and verse 1, blessed those who listen to the Lord, and cursed. In Deuteronomy 28 and verse 15, it says, cursed shall I be those who, don't listen to me. Right here it's saying you will surely live, you will be blessed if you give within the kindness of your heart, right? I'm gonna get one more precept, right? This is the book of Psalm, chapter 15 and verse 5. Those who lend money without charging interest and who cannot be bribed to lie about the innocent, such people will stand firm together, right? And that's just another precept in regards to how the Most High God will bless those that don't involve themselves in usury, don't take advantage, don't enslave financially their brother and sister, right? So now I want to actually go to Christ. Let's look forward the ultimate example, right? The ultimate example on how to be, how to dwell, how to treat our brother and sister, right? I'm gonna go to the book of John, chapter 13 and verse 34. And it reads, a new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, my followers, right? My friends. If ye have love one to another, right? So you have to love your brother, right? Involving yourself in usury, charging excessive interest rates, right? Taking advantage financially of a person that is less fortunate, that's in a bad place, in a bind. How are you gonna love? How are you really loving your brother or your sister when doing this, involving yourself in these things, right? Christ commands us, okay, to love one another like we love ourselves, right? Help your brother out because you want to see your brother do well. Not love your brother out to take advantage to one up. This is what happens in our community, man. And we got to stop this. We got to put it away. You understand? Let me get 3 more, right? And then we can wrap it up. This is the book of Ephesians, chapter 4 and verse 32. It says, and be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted. Hey, man, a usurer is not tender-hearted. You understand? He's thinking self. He's self-absorbed. Hey, to be tender-hearted, to treat your brother tender and delicately, right, is the opposite of taking advantage of him. You wouldn't want nobody to one-up you, take advantage of you, right? To benefit off of you. We got to keep this in mind. It says, forgiving one another, even as the Most High, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you. Amen. None of us is untouchable. We are all in captivity, right? We are all under curses. So you got to understand that you're going through the same thing as your brother going through, just in different ways, man. So why are you involving yourself in usury? You understand? It's the book of Romans, chapter 13 and verse 10. It says, love worketh no ill to his neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law, right? So we conclude and we collect the law and the commandments, right? And loving one another, right? And true love, right? Loving your brother and your sister does not have any ill will. It has no malicious intent. It has nothing behind it, no strings attached, right? We're supposed to be like Christ, lending and loving out of the kindness of our hearts, not for any ulterior motives or no malicious motives. You understand? Lastly, I'm going to go to the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, right? And verse number 4. It says, charity suffereth long and is kind, right? So giving real charity, real genuine lending, it suffereth long and it's kind, right? Lending with usury attached, bro, that's not kind. It says charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself. It's not puffed up. It's not self-absorbed, right? It's not envious and covetous towards the money that's being lended. You understand? It says, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, right? You understand? So with that, that's all of my precepts. Hey, I hope, all right, one of you were edified or will be edified on the in the coming days on the replays. You understand? We have to get away, and we have to completely demolish and destroy that usury, that taking advantage, that enslaving your brother or sister financially. You got any points, King?
Yeah, I'm gonna get two more precepts to close it out.
Uh,
Book of Proverbs, chapter 22, verse 16. Right, keep these in mind. Right, he that oppresseth the poor to increase his riches, and he that giveth to the rich shall surely come to want. Right. At the end of the day, Yahweh told us not to store up for ourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust do destroy and thieves break in and steal, but lay up for ourselves treasures in heaven.
That's right.
How do we do that if we're giving in order to receive an increase here on this earth from the people that are needing what we're giving them? I want you to always keep if you forget everything else about this video, I want you to keep this right here in mind, right? It's Book of Proverbs, chapter 19, verse 17, right? It says, he that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto the Most High, and that which he hath given will he pay him again, right? Yahweh Shah told us that all these things that you have done to the least of these, you have also done unto me, right? So we always have to keep these things in the back of our mind, which you try to extort Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Would you try to lend him something and expect interest in return? No. At the end of the day, usury amongst your own people is evil, is wicked. And with that, I yield.
Kind, King. And with that, hey, we say Kwam Yasharala, we love you, Israel. Shalom.
Shalom.